One check two, check one, check two. How's everybody doing on Thursday? I just thought I'd go live and just talk about my experience in the field. Let me check on my phone and make sure we're rolling okay. I got decent, excellent health stream going on. So let's see what we're looking like. Then we'll get started. If you got any specific questions, just want to welcome everybody. Just drop, if you got any questions, just drop them in the box while I chit chat today. Let's bring it up on my phone and we get started. Happy Thursday. I dropped a couple videos. One about a nurse selling real COVID cards who just messed up their career, which I thought was insane. You would mess up your career for COVID cards that you were selling for $10, which is, like I said, hard to comprehend. So, let's see. There I am. So I'm just gonna get started. We always talked about success, getting the bag, killing it. But in part of that, there's gonna be, of course, there's gonna be failures and wins and all kind of things. So I just thought I would just go over some issues I had in my 30 plus years in this game. So let's see, I'll put a little notepad in there with all my little issues. It wasn't a ton. I had a pretty cool thing. So let me see. Once again, we can get started. Here it is. Boom, boom, boom. So we're just talking about failures. We always talk about success, bags, and winning, but what comes along with that is failures. What's up, JM? I'm the type of nigga that gets discouraged. Don't be discouraged, man. That's one reason I want to talk about failures today, man. I'm in the game. I make six figures, but I had quite a few failures on the way. But you just got to make sure those failures, don't break you. And most of your failures in the scheme of things are going to be small when you actually look back on them 10, 15, 20, 25 years. They seem small. But JM do I'm with you. When you in the mix of the failure, it's the biggest thing. You feel like your whole world caving in. You feel like you're a failure. You let down the ancestors. The failures be feeling big at the time. But now, I'm in my 50s when I look back at my failures in my 20s, 30s, and even 40s. I'm like, dude, that is just a small blip of things in my whole life, man. I just failed my Linux Essential, but I just passed my comp. See, there you go. You winning. You just got to study on that Linux Essential. Get with my man, Keep It Techie. He had those good videos out there for you. I failed the CISP, and that's going to be one of the things I talked about, man. I'm a senior cybersecurity consultant 10 years ago. I failed my CISP, and I never went back to take it again, man. I got my Security Plus. Nobody's ever asked me for it. So, in the thing, when I failed my CISP probably 10 years ago, I was crushed. But now I look back on it, nobody ever asked me if I have one now. So it's just you just gotta make it relevant. And two is you failed your Linux Essential, but you learned some. You probably learned a lot. You just got to tighten up on a few things and take it again. So when I first graduated with a computer science degree in 1990, there was a recession. My first job I got back then, I think I was making, I want to think I was making $32,000, man, because there was hardly any jobs. The market was crashed. And I interviewed at this place, and really I was the second choice. The number one choice took another job, so they picked me up. So I'm like, okay, I went to school. I got this great degree. I'm computer science. I think I'm doing a big thing. And the only job I could get was like $32,000 right back then, which is a cool thing though. I was living at home. I had my son with me. I had my son super early. My son was with me, but in the scheme of things, because I was living at home, my bills weren't high. My son was with me. So long story short, I started off with $16 an hour with a computer science degree. At a certain thing, I kind of feel like a failure. Like, okay, I did all this college, I did all this studying. I'm on my grind. I took this calculus too, and I'm only making $16 an hour. So am I a failure? or am I just progressing on the ground floor, get ready to start running in my career? Right? It's a couple ways to look at it. I'm working my way to get that security plus and make security clearance to give me a good job. You right there. I had my security clearance probably expired about 4 or 5 years ago. So once you get your security clearance, you would definitely be up and running. I worked for DoD for 11 years as a consultant, so I'm uh, intimately familiar with security clearance. My best friend, who I'm one of my good friends, he's gonna come on here. He had a top secret. I think he had to take a lie detector for the top secret. So I'm gonna have him on here talking about the security clearance. He left DoD. He was at DoD for 23 years, and he switched and he was working for a private company. But we were both working for DoD together. So yeah, I had a NACLO level security clearance for most of them. Right when I was leaving, I was doing my it was SBI clearance, so I could get a secret clearance. But then I left the government. So yeah, so 1990, I just graduated, I'm making about $32,000. I'm a junior programmer, so I got my first assignment. Cool thing, it was a couple miles from my house. It was working for third party medical administrator. When you do your medical claims and a doctor, they usually pay the bills, third party. So I actually loved the job. It was working on this thing called Quick Basic. It was a mini computer, but I was only making $32,000 a year. So I'm getting it. So everything I learned in school does not apply to my job. Why? Because when you do a mini computer, there's a lot of stuff that you do in class. You don't have to put on tapes and JCL and all that type of stuff that you actually have to do in the real world. So I got this job and this degree, and when I get out in the real world, I'm like, we didn't do this in school, right? So now I kind of feel like I'm failing a little bit. I'm not making as much money as I thought, and I am struggling in my first job immensely, right? So as failures, it's not a failure, right? It's okay. I'm getting my skills up, I'm getting my money up, and this is my first stepping stone to getting the real world, right? So sometimes you think you're failing, but it's just where you at in life before you make your big leap, right? So you always got to remember that even though I'm failing and struggling, am I learning? Am I getting better? Or is my network getting bigger? So as you're failing, there's certain things you can do to make sure as you fail and you're actually progressing in your life and in your career and in your status in the industry. Uh, Jam, you probably could. I would actually reach out to one of the big consulting companies, being Booz Allen, some of those high level companies, because they actually look for people with top secret. Because I work with guys I'm not saying you're there, that wasn't very smart, but they had a top secret. They could get in buildings I couldn't get to. So they actually would go in the building and call out, and we would tell them how to do their job, because you could be as smart as you want and good as you are. If you got a top secret building, you don't have a top secret clearance. There's some buildings you just can't get into. Especially, I don't know about Korea and Japan, but definitely in the DMV with Virginia, DC, and Maryland, you almost got to have a top secret, because if you're doing anything out there in those big government buildings, you're gonna need probably at least a secret, and if not a top secret, to get in some of those computer rooms. Most definitely. So I would check out some of the big consulting companies and just tell them, even though you're entry level, what are you trying to get into? With your into security, Linux, what's your specialty? Uh, so So once again, as you fail, that's your baseline, that's your stepping stone, especially in IT. Like I said, um, you're gonna fail exams. I failed the CISP. I just never took it again, and I've been in the industry so long, nobody's ever asked me for it. I'm probably gonna study for it. This is gonna be a time where somebody don't know me and they're gonna ask me for credentials, especially in the government. I think it's called 8550. There's certain certifications you need to get government jobs. I think my Security Plus will cover the 8550, but the CSP, of course, gets you more senior level jobs and senior level spots. So, once again, failing is just part of life. Failing is just part of business. It's just how do you fail and are you devastated? So if you don't pass the test, it's okay. Like I said, unless you need it for your job, most tests you can always retest. And as you testing it, of course, you're gonna learn, right? Then in my 30s, one of my big fail was I started a computer company with three other guys. We were in business about 3 years. We had government contracts. We made we grossed a million, but our net was super low because I think we had 20 employees. But trying to get over the hump of running a business, paying your taxes, and trying to get in a big corporation, um, and get consultants in there, and you bidding against the big consulting firms are super hard, right? So sometimes when I look back on that, I kind of wish we would have did a little differently. We were doing a little more hardware and help desk, and in that business I start. But so when I first got in it, how I got in it was I was programming at night for a year to buy my shares to invest in this business. Right. So in the end, the business failed. So I probably made about $200,000 for the business, but it all went to the business. Right. So that's money I probably could have had for myself, maybe. But if I was bidding on that work by myself, they probably wouldn't have gave it to me. But I did put my time and labor that probably equaled a couple 100,000, and I brought in a couple 100,000. Right. So that all together, and I failed too. So we're gonna walk through what that business was and kind of how I how I failed and how I kind of set it up wrong. Even though I only owned the 10%, the three other older guys, they wanted to do more hardware. So that was me not understanding the direction of the business. But let's see. Right now, I only have CompTIA Plus, MTA Security, CompTIA Certa. I currently working on Network Plus. After Network, I get into Security Plus. What do you want to do though? I see all your certificates. I see you getting the certificates. Do you want to work in networking? Do you want to work on security? Do you want to be a DBA? Do you want to do security and do policies and procedures? Do you want to do, there's so much in security. SOC. You want to be a SOC analyst in security. What do we got? Compliance director. Do you want to do compliance in security? What specific job do you want to do? JM Rimmer. What's up, Netropolis? Yes, that's just true. Experience is gold, and a lot of people don't realize it. A lot of times when you fail, and I'm gonna talk about one of this after, you learn so much. So when I was in business with three other guys for 2 or 3 years, we were in business, we were making money. We had a couple Fortune 500 small contracts for desktop setup. Back then, it wasn't as automated as it is now, right? Because we're talking about I was in that business probably 2000, 2003. So automated scripts went out there. So PC land in a truck, you get it, you get your ghost image, you put your ghost image down, and you spin them up, right? And you configure it, put your networking card, DHCP, and you ship it out, right? And a lot of times when you ship it out, they actually want you to put it on the desk, set up the network cables, ping it, test it, right? Because when you're working with corporate people, they don't want to do anything that. So we had those people set them up, go out to their corporate office, and it would be delivered like 200 PCs, and you have to go set them up. And of course, they want they stuff done at third shift because they don't want to bother the corporation. So you guys out there ping in. I'm out there with them. Ping in network cards. Sometimes the network card bad is. You pop it out, put a new network card, get all that stuff working, make sure the subnets are doing what they're supposed to do, working with the network team, right? So, but it was a cool business. The thing I learned too is how to run a business and what profit means. A lot of times when you getting paid as an employer or consultant, you don't concern yourself with taxes, health care, acquiring customers, bidding against customers, bidding on $1 million federal contracts, what it takes to bid on it, then lose, right? So all that's part of business. So that's what I learned, right? Even though the businesses fail, I learned how to do business. So now I'm a consultant. When I hear my consulting company talk about this is what your health care is worth, this is what your benefits are worth, right? I understand that. Right, so there's both sections. So I always joke. I tell people I'm like Lil Wayne, Master P when they were selling CDs out their trunk, right? So when they went to the record labels, they know what the profit is for a CD because they sold them out their trunk, right? Since I had a consulting company, I know what it is to acquire. I know what my contract's worth, right? So you're not telling me what the bill rate is, what you billing me out as, right? So, but I know what that rate is, so I know what my salary is and the percentage of that contract is, and I know what it's worth. So you can't give me 40% of a contract, right? And tell me I'm doing well. I'm like, dude, I know that contract's worth $150 an hour, and I want X percentage of that, right? Because I've done this before in real life, right? My business fails, but I know what those margins is, and I know what the margins make sense is for me, right? I'm grown and old, right? I'm not young anymore, so I know what percentage of that contract makes sense for me. Now, I'm not going to be greedy, but I'm not going to let you rob me either, right? So how did I get that? My failed business, right? So I was in business for 3 years. I probably lost. If you talk about opportunity cost of me making the salary I could have made, but I probably lost 100,000, right? But I didn't gain that multiple times over now because I know what my salary should be. I know what you bid this contract out for. I know what insurance cost is. I know where to get cheap insurance costs too, right? So even though I failed in business, right, it helps me now because if I do side work, I know what it is. Like I said, when I work for an employer, I know what my cut should be of that contract, right? But I failed at business. But what did I learn in return, right? Let's see. Experiences go. Metropolis to respect. I found servers interesting, but I would like cybersecurity because I have an AA in criminal. Okay, Justice BA in Homeland Security, and also have a military background. Once again, I'm with you, but cybersecurity is huge. I got a SOC analyst. I do federal compliance. What does that mean? A lot of federal companies or a lot of federal agencies report to the IRS, OSHA, FISMA, PCI for credit cards. Those are compliance stuff. You got to have your computer set up. You got to have policies and procedures, right? That's my specialty in cybersecurity. Like I said, we got compliance director. We have a chief information security officer. I'm having him on my channel. We have a DR and business continuity. If something happens, how do we roll over? If we get hacked, can we roll over to a different computer system? Then we have a junior analyst. He's in charge of setting up the SIM, checking our logging, and all that. So there's probably, like I said, the SOC analyst red team trying to track down the hackers. So there's a lot of cybersecurity jobs, Jam. So you got to focus on which one of those you want. I'll probably do federal work if I'm in the cybersecurity and you're trying to go, but you're paying a federal work because each one of those agencies report at least to FISMA or somebody for their compliance for government systems. So much efforts and five. Thank you, Metropolis. So once again, when you fail, what do you learn from it? And like I said, if you're in this industry long enough, you're gonna fail. And once again, when you fail, and it seems like the biggest thing in the world, but when you look back 10, 5, after what I'm talking about now was 25 years ago, it just seems like a blip in my life. When I had a business and I failed and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next and where I was going to go. I thought I was going to be this big company and make all this money. And next thing I know, I'm like almost in the negative. I'm paying people and I'm not getting paid, right? Because we had 26 employees and we missed payroll one time. We didn't get the bill in right. So the four partners had to scratch a check to pay the employees for that week. Right. So now I'm not making money and I'm scratching checks to make sure other people get paid. Right. But that's what it means to be a business owner. That's not the glamorous part of starting a business. Right. Everybody says, well, I'm going to start a business. Right. So what does that mean? To me, when you start a business, you have to have employees. If you sole proprietor, it's a business, but it's not a business, right? When you got multiple employees, you're paying healthcare, you're paying benefits, right? Now you in a different level of a game, right? And I to this day, I'm gonna have one of those guys on. He actually apologized to me. He said, "Well, we kind of failed." I was like, "Dude, you don't need to apologize. I have an MBA, right? I learned more in that 2 years running my own business than I did 2 years earning an MBA. When you got to scratch a check for somebody else and you're not getting paid, I promise you're gonna pay much more attention, right? You're gonna learn more in that game, right? So I learned way more actually in running my business and actually taking business classes. But the beautiful thing is I got to put those two together. So I might actually start a programming incubator and get a whole bunch of talent together and try to come up with some products to sell to the government, especially when you talk about the internet, the cloud, and how you do raise capital, Series 1s or Series 2 funding. Now it's a little easier. And two is there's a lot of guys on the net starting classes, so I want to take people from their classes, put it in an incubator. Let's try to. We talk about building. Let's build something. Right? It's easy to build when you talk about electronics, bits and bytes and nibbles. For old people, they know electronic nibble is. Right? It's 4 bytes. But so you can build stuff right there. So that's me failing out of business. So then I got back in. The cool thing is, once I got back in, I got a higher level position for all the experience I got filling at my business, right? So now I'm like, okay, I'm out of position. Now I'm about to go into a project lead role at a $1 billion insurance company. I was doing data warehousing time, and I had like 10 people on my team that I was responsible for. I think this was one of my first teams. So we'll break that down. Let's see. Shout out to JM Romero, Netropolis. Damon, I just passed my Azure administration cert. Any advice on how to pivot to a cloud-based system? I guess Azure administration, your own. That's actually a cloud-based. So when you mean pivot into a cloud-based system job, Damon, or when you talk about pivot, because obviously Azure admin, sir, how to pivot to a cloud-based. It should be a lot of people looking for that specific talent, especially Azure. We're doing a ton of stuff, man. So now I'm a project leader at a $1 billion insurance company with 10 people. I'm probably regular. Now. I want to say I'm 32. It didn't go well. It actually went horribly. So I'm on there, and the thing I just didn't figure out is a lot of times, especially on those big corporations, those people know each other, right? I come in, so I'm new, so they're trying to figure out how did I become their boss, right? When a lot of people thought I was qualified to come in. So I came in thinking, okay, everything's smooth. I'm just going to look at their work, double check it, double check the schema, and just delegate work, right? But I think people were trying to test me to figure out if I was qualified to have that job, right? So every job I took out before them, I come in and I'm a set precedent of what I'm about. What I did is I came in like, okay, these guys know everybody. Everybody's just gonna kind of fall in line. Everybody's gonna do their job, right? I didn't take the temperature of the room. I didn't figure out who knows what. I didn't figure out their skill sets, right? So that was me failing at becoming a project leader for the first time. So things I should have done, right? I should have sat down with each one of those guys individually and talked to them. Why? To set up what I want them to do, set up what I expect them to do. I also set up that I'm the leader. Right. So I think that was my failing, right? Set up a meeting the first at least the second week, set up a meeting to make sure everybody's on the same page. Right. And since they were cool, my boss, every time I had problems with somebody, they went around me and talked to my boss, right? So I was having a little friction there too, right? So my failing in setting expectation from my boss to the people working for me was what? My failure as a project leader at that $1 billion insurance company. Right. But now that I'm 50 and I look back, I can say, oh, right, I've done it right. But when I'm failing, I'm getting complaints. My the people working for me going above my head, complaining to my boss. Then my boss is going around to me, talking to them, I guess placating them. Right, it was me failing to become a project leader and failing how to lead an organization. Right, even though I had a master's degree, right, and I did have organizational behavior. when you in it and you're failing and people complain about you and your project's not going well because the people you're managing aren't very good, right? So all that falls on you now, right? So when I'm in the middle of that, man, that is stressful, right? Am I gonna get fired? I'm failing. Do I deserve this job? Do I deserve to be a leader? Right? We already, talk about that, right? That's imposter syndrome start creeping in, right? Am I over my head? Do I deserve this? Is it me or is it them? Right? So, but what did I learn for that? How to manage people, talk to them individually, do an assessment really of your team's skills, right? So I took a job. Those are things, questions I didn't ask. I made assumptions that if I worked for $1 billion company, everybody on the staff would be at a certain level. That's incorrect. That is very incorrect. But once again, me failing in a leadership position and as in a project position, right, held me every job after that. I've been leading. I've been over teams. I've been over departments. Even though I'm a consultant right now, I lead the team technically, right? I make sure everybody's on point. I make sure everybody's going in the right direction. All right, so I have to lead them, right? I don't lead as much as I advise. That uh, part of my life kind of made me not want to do leadership anymore. To be honest, I advise now. I take senior consultant roles, and I help people that are leading by advising them. Now that's what I do more. But I learned from that job how that should work and how that should flow and how should I handle that, right? But once again, that could have broke me because you're like, hey, this is sucking. Is it me? It's a big company. Like I said, what's up with the forensic gang? I'm shot for cool on an architect in December. And they try deep. I got some stories for you. I actually teach forensics, computer forensics from a security perspective in Metropolis. So, what's your definition for what's up for a forensic game? I actually probably teach a forensic class online, probably. I'm talking about online on my channel. Just go over some of the chapters. Let me know if you'd be interested in that in Metropolis. I might do a little forensic. Right now, I'm teaching an introduction to cybersecurity. Every Sunday at 3, we usually go for an hour. I usually go over the slides. It's really introduction to computer security. After that, those slides, you could sit for the Security Plus exam, but it's more introduction to computer security to kind of get you into it. I mean, I know you take exams, but when you talk about slides, we're gonna talk about everything from red team, blue team, green team. I usually talk about security compliance. I talk about SIMs. I usually talk about the hack of the day, whatever was the biggest video I did of the week. We're going to chop it up about that from a cybersecurity perspective, right? So the guy stole the vaccine cards. The nurse stole the vaccine cards. They were actually real vaccine cards. Right? From a cybersecurity perspective, that's physical security. How do we keep track of them? How do we lock them up? How do we sign up for them so we know if this dude's, so we got 20 cards. We only had 10 vaccines today. Why is only 2 cards left, right? That's part of cyber. That's part of the physical security. How do we control our items? How do we make sure we got inventory, right? That's us working with operational, make sure from a physical cybersecurity, we controlling our items, right? So that's in there, and that's how how it rolls out. Shout out to CL. I'm gonna have him on the channel. He just got his CISP. He's one of the sought after man in the Midwest, getting all the money, making things happen. So we're gonna have CL on there. So talk about how his life is with the CISP underneath his belt as a young guy making moves. So, but once again, when we talk about, like I said, I was at a big insurance company. I failed as a project leader, but what I learned from that, right, is kind of what I bring to. And the other thing I figured out, and I use a lot today, probably a little too much, is if people like you, they'll forgive you. If people don't like you, one little mistake, you're fired, right? right? So I always tell people, you can be an asshole, but you better be super good. You better be great at your task if you're an asshole, right? Because all of that, winds up in the zone there, right? So now I'm in my 50s. I've been in the game. So now, right? So I always think, did I fail because I'm not a CISO? I'm not Chief Information Security Officer. I'm not a big security manager, right? So am I failing? Should I go for more of a leadership role to be able to hire people, right? So what is failing at my age, right? Should I be making $250,000, right? So what does failing mean at my age, right? So sometimes I think about, okay, should I go somewhere and be a CISO, right? Can I get a CISO position? It's easy for me to say, oh, I'm gonna go somewhere and be Chief Information Security Officer. That's a big job, big responsibility. Some of the bigger companies, you have big budgets, right? So if I'm not that, am I a failure at my age? Right? That's good. Shout out to CF for the CISP. So that's what you gotta, talk about. And two, once again, is failing is part of life, part of cybersecurity, part of IT. Right? I worked on a general ledger system for the services. Right? We worked on that for like 5 or 6 years. They put it on a shelf, right? Because they didn't want to use it. It was kind of outdated at the time, and they thought they were just going to do one of the cloud vendors and just get a built-in cost package for that. But we worked on that forever, a lot of money, right? So was that failing? Probably. But the cool part is I got a ton of skills. I got really good at Oracle. I was a DBA. I learned Java. I was application web and application manager out there. So even though that the system didn't get deployed, so that was seen as a failure. But I got a bunch of skills. I got a security clearance, and I met a ton of people, right, to this day that offered me jobs. So each failure, depending on the failure, could be actually a stepping stone to something bigger. And a lot of times too is people expect you to fail, especially if you're doing something big, right? A lot of people hire you in Silicon Valley because you worked on a big project. It failed, but you got a ton of skills from it, right? Because there's most things people do as part of a business and a project, especially when you're talking about a product that you're trying to market to people. Most of those are going to fail, right? There was a ton of Facebooks trying to get out there, and there was a ton of MySpaces, then Snapchat, and so each thing's gonna get better. And before that one bubbles up, there's gonna be 10 or 20 of those sort of things that kind of fail that people really just didn't think through, right? So look at failure as this: am I learning? Am I progressing? Am I getting better? And two is, what are you getting out of that? Like sometimes you'll see a project or product that's failing, but are you on a team? Are you in a high level product? Or like what he said is, are you getting some cloud skills out of it that you can use for your next job, even though you think this gonna fail, right? Because experience and skills in this business is worth a ton, right? That's really worth more than your degrees and your certs. Right? You can show that you can do Azure, or if you can show you can do AWS, if you have a portfolio, if you worked for a big company and people will vouch for you on LinkedIn, right? People know you actually did that work and you have those skills, even though it failed, right? Everybody's big on I secured the bag, I got this, I got that, right? But sometimes, as they say, my favorite word is it's the process, right? Sometimes you got to go to junior, senior, blah, masters, boom, and get your CISP. Some people just get off the bat. Sometimes you have to grab for 4 or 5 years before you get it. Sometimes it's just not given to you. You got to go get it, but you got to plan to get it, and part of that is failing, right? So You cannot spend some on AWS. Of course, the first time you set up, it's not going to be right. Right? There could be a failure. You might set it up wrong. You have other people look at it, right, and grade your work or judge your work, right? So that's not failing, right? That's progressing. But sometimes progressing is seen through failing. So once again, failing is not the end all be all. It's just part of the process. So once again, I was just gonna do something short today, fellas. I was just checking my setup and seeing what's up. So that's all I got. Unless anybody got any certain questions, I just want to come on real quick. Once again, we're doing Introduction to Computer Security on Sunday at 3. We're talking about encryption and cryptography. We're actually talking about PKI, which is going to be short because it's so expensive to set up. PKI with actually fingerprinting and your CAC cards and your X509 cert. So this is really what we're going to talk about Sunday. So I don't think it's going to go that long because nobody's really doing PKI encryption all the way through with the revocation of certs, the thumbnail to get your X509 cert. Tiny's favorite thing, non-repudiation of your emails when you put your pen in and it automatically signs your email. So we know it's you or sign your contract so you can get out on from a full PKI infrastructure implementation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But like I said, it's so rare. The only one I know of is the one that the government actually has set up. And like I said, I actually work for it, so I actually physically have one of those CAP cards with the email and the sign inserts that you had to put your 4-digit PIN on to actually get it to sign your documents. Once again, that's super rare. On Patreon, I don't have Patreon. Who's got Patreon? He should be. Oh, he should be get the Patreon. Nah, I'm good. So once again, it's gonna be introduction to cybersecurity Sunday at 3. When real football start, I might move it. Now, by the time real football start, we should be pretty much done. So I think this is week 4. I gotta get those slides out there so they can download them. So yeah, once again, come check us out. Uh, don't be scared of failure. This industry and IT, especially cybersecurity, thrives on failure. That's how you learn. And we're going to start building some stuff actually on Amazon so we can learn, so we can fail, so we can kind of figure it out. I got like 2 or 3 Amazon architects that's going to help us look over some stuff as we actually set this stuff up on Amazon when we do our introduction to cybersecurity. So this week we're gonna just go through the slides, go over PKI for a full infrastructure with the non-repudiation X509 cert to make sure your contracts are signed by you. So that's all I have. Thanks everybody for coming. Professor Black Ops, please subscribe. I'm gonna see y'all on Sunday. Have a great day.